It's clobbering time, everybody. The Film Board gathers once again to take on the biggest cinematic releases of the month, and this one is a doozy. Marvel's first family finally gets their MCU debut with a film that skips the origin story and jumps straight into the cosmic parenthood, vintage suits, and a surprisingly emotional showdown with a planet eater. It's The Fantastic Four: First Steps.
Famous around the world, please welcome the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch,
I love you, Johnny!
and The Thing.
Hey, what time is it? Say the thing.
That's not really something I say.
It's clobbering time.
That's just in the cartoon. Never late for Sunday dinner. Let's eat.
Hey, what time is it?
It's dinner time. Get inside.
I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus.
What is that? Get us out of here, Ben! Hold on! Are we safe?
I don't know. The clock is ticking. We are going to find a solution. We are going to make it right.
You don't want to just crush him?
I like that. The four of us will face the danger. We will protect you.
Family. It's about connecting to something bigger than yourself. We'll face it together. As a family.
Good evening, ladies and gents, boys and girls, and all you hep cats tuned into the future of film. It's time once again for your favorite think tank of cinematic truth seekers. The Film Board gathered tonight to go atomic on Marvel's grooviest gamble yet, Fantastic Four: First Steps. Now, hold the phone and cool your jets, because we've got the bossest panel in the biz. First up, he's a real space brain with a rocket pack of hot takes and a utility belt full of sass. You know him from Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society and Marvel Movie Minute. It's the one, the only Kyle Olson.
Hey there, cats and kittens. Happy to be here to talk about the Big Four.
Next, coming at you faster than a gamma burst and sharper than a slide rule, he's the maestro of the Marvel Movie Minute and editor supreme. Give it up for Rob Kubasko.
Hey, I see what you did there. Very nice.
And don't flip your wig, because we've got a mind melter of a guest joining the round table. They're the king of the conscience crowd, the professor of pow from superhero ethics and all points moral. It's Matthew Fox.
There it is. There it is.
I'm Pete Wright, your guide through this technicolor tale of stretchy dads, sizzling siblings, invisible mothers, and big galactic guys with even bigger appetites. So grab your phosphate, pop your collar, and settle in, because this one's going to the moon! Hi, folks. This is really great. Look, this is a cavalcade of superhero films that we have this month. It's a banner month in this year, 2025. We're here, Fantastic Four. We've done Fantastic Four before as humanity. I have the Corman version on my Plex server. Let's talk, though, about this one. And I think before we dig into the really nerdy stuff, I think we should just pull the Band-Aid off and get our opening thoughts out of the way about the film. How did it stack up for you? Matthew, you go first.
Sure. I'm going to ask a further thing that we mentioned, which is that what is your connection to the Final Four before this? Because I'll say, I think all of you have at least seen other movies, probably read comic books. I knew almost nothing of the Final Four going in. I knew who they were. I'd seen maybe 20 minutes of one awful movie, never read a comic book, not seen much beyond that. And I would give this movie a solid B. I think this movie did a fantastic job of introducing me to the characters of the Fantastic Four, making me really care about them, and make me really be excited about them in the MCU. And then it tried to have them go on an adventure. And that actual adventure I found kind of lackluster. Galactus I thought was pretty dull. A lot of it was very boring. And I think I fundamentally disagreed with the main ethical question of this movie, which as a new parent is kind of interesting. But we'll discuss that. So,
okay.
You guys go next.
Okay. All right, Rob.
This is an outrageously fantastic movie with outrageously amazing moments. It's not without flaws and some wild coincidences with the previous superhero movie we discussed. So we'll talk about that. Here's the coming out of the movie. Did I like it better than the Thunderbolts? By a smidge. Do I like it more than the Incredibles? No.
Okay. All right. The Incredibles. High esteem. All right. Kyle.
I guess I come in as the most learned, I guess, of the Fantastic Four lore because I've been a fan of them since the comic books. I've read almost everything that they have done, watched all the cartoons, and seen all the movies, including the Corman one. So I come in with a lot of baggage. And I felt this was one of the best Marvel sequels to a movie we never got. So
okay.
I agree. I have some moments of amazingness, but I also I really regret what we didn't get to see.
Oh, because as the person who knew the least about it, I loved that it wasn't an origin story. But we'll talk more about that. Yeah.
I agree.
I feel like I enjoyed my time in the theater with this movie. I really did. And I walked out, and 2 hours later, I had to really, really think about how it ended. I could not, for the life of me, remember the third act. I got there eventually, but I think that's sort of telling about what stuck in the movie and what, as a superhero action film, did not really lock in for me. As much as I enjoyed my time with it, and we'll talk about our big bad, the biggest of the big bads, in a bit. I feel like there were some empty calories going on in this movie after a wonderful setup. So with that all out of the way, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, you pretty much get how it ends by looking at the trailer. You could figure it out. This is a spoiler-full conversation. We do nothing but spoilers. So if you really don't want to be spoiled in specific, please go watch the movie and come back. You have been notified. All right. Let us do our comic allegiance segment. I didn't mention I am a fan of Fantastic Four. I am not encyclopedic like Kyle, but I did read a bunch of the comics, spent more time with the animated series, the Hanna-Barbera bit. And so I can say that I have some of the spirit, but not inclusive. So I get it. I do love it. And I love what the Fantastic Four represent as a family, which I would love to talk about, and how well that transitions to screen. So, Kyle, you want to kick us off here?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you a full sort of bio, but I'll give you like a little bit of sort of my understanding of Fantastic Four. Obviously, Lee and Kirby came up with this. They were called the first family because they were the first thing that Marvel ever put out. This is what sort of defined what the Marvel style was, which is taking these fantastical adventures and space gods and surfers in silver, and also having a human drama at the center of it. From this came X-Men, came Spider-Man, all that stuff added, but like this is sort of where Stan and Jack first established what became sort of the house style, and then a franchise was born. From there, they have struggled because once Lee and Kirby sort of stopped writing and hand off, it's been a series of handing off to people who either get it or they don't get it. And so their comic book history is more littered with people who didn't understand what was interesting about the Fantastic Four than people who did. So there are moments where they really shine, and a lot more moments where they don't. And so a lot of what comes, the problem is that they aren't superheroes. And even this movie sometimes, that they are adventurers, they are explorers, they are much closer to Flash Gordon and Doc Savage than they are to Spider-Man and Captain America. But because they're in a superhero universe, they keep getting pulled into superhero circumstances, and then it never quite fits right. And this movie, I think, is an example of it doesn't quite fit right. They have the family dynamics right, but they still don't. They're still trying to fit into the tropes that the MCU has established. And like from the first trailer, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if they got it." In the same way where I watched James Gunn's trailer for Superman, as we're making this comparison, and it's when he got it. Like he understood what Superman was in a way, and I was worried that this would happen, and it kind of did. And it's like for now 4 times they've done it, and they've never quite gotten it right, that because they keep trying to make them into something that they aren't.
Well, and I would say this is the best of the 4 times for me.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah,
I think the thing that I'm challenged with is that my first exposure to the Fantastic Four introduced a family that was deeply flawed, right? That they were dysfunctional, and I love the way you put it, that they're adventurers, not heroes, that they are dragged into this because of circumstance and never quite embrace it. They just exist in this space, kind of reluctant hero trope writ large. And I think this movie actually, particularly through Pedro Pascal, I think they get some of the vibe of like, hey, I'm just a scientist, man. And I think he pulls it off maybe better than anybody else. I'm sorry, Matthew, you were going to say something.
No, I would just add to that. First of all, yeah, agreed on the Pedro Pascal. A hero who stretches sounds incredibly boring to me. And I really liked that it was just a cool effect sometimes, but mostly his superpower is his brain and his dedication and also the flaws that came of it. I loved that about his character. But Kyle, what you said is, I would say, in that regard, for me as someone who knows only this movie, it totally failed. Because, and this I think will deeply affect the ethical questions I'm going to get into later, I definitely saw them as having, not only as being superpowered people, but I'm always really interested in what authority do people have to do superhero things. And it felt like in this world, there was an agreement they had with the governments of the world that they would be given certain dispensations and freedoms. And if they go to some country that no one's going to check their passport because they're just going to be like, you're here to defeat the monster and we're not going to worry about collateral debt. There was an agreement that they had, not the Sokovia Accords by any means, but something that they were empowered by the governments of the world to do these things and thus expected by the governments of the world to do these things. And as we'll talk about later, I think that fundamentally changes how we understand the decisions they had to make regarding Franklin. So it's really interesting to me to hear that, because that is, as someone very new to this, absolutely not what I got from the story. What I got from the story was they are the Avengers. They are the Justice League. They are empowered by the world to do these things.
Yeah, which I think does not serve them well. I think if you put in the Fantastic Four in any Star Trek kind of scenario of like high science and then high ethical kind of questions, which is what they tried to do, it gets interesting. But when you try and do that in the superhero genre, it doesn't quite work, because like the Avengers only got to be the Avengers for one movie, and after that they're immediately like, oh, they're the greatest heroes. Now let's immediately tear them down and tear them apart and make sure they never are together again. Whereas this, we have a world that goes, these guys are amazing, we love them, we'll follow anything they do, we trust them implicitly. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, we've never really seen this in any modern superhero thing, even in Superman, which I think we bring up just because of proximity of time. The superheroes are around, and they don't have that same kind of relationship. They don't quite trust Superman at this point. But here, everyone immediately trusts him, and then immediately that's taken away. It's like, but could we live in that world a little bit longer? That's because we haven't seen that before. But no, immediately then the world turns on them.
Yeah, I really agree with all of that. I'm struggling a little bit because with the Superman comparison, they had been superpowered sort of people, metahumans, had been around so long that there was enough time for the vox populi to split. So you have some heroes that were beloved and some that were not, and Superman is mistrusted and for a time, but corporate sponsorships are what they are and branding is what it is. And so there's a much more sort of sophisticated emotional tapestry for the public in Superman, and I think that works well for, I think, what they're trying to do with that movie and that universe. This one, I'm with you. I loved the fact that we had given over our the sort of allegiance to this superpowered team because they were, they too, like Superman, they exist in a world with lots of malcontents, and the nods to Mole Man and Red Ghost and Mad Thinker and Puppet Master and Diablo. All of those are really great. We live in a time when there are bad things that manifest in the form of individuals who are, doing their thing. What we get with Mole Man, which is I think that is the most legacy evildoer in the Fantastic Four. That's like Fantastic Four #1.
There's even an homage, if anybody, I don't know how much it is, but the first cover of the first comic. They like literally have that in the opening sequence of the green monster coming out. I think that's the cover. I was like, oh, they really are going all the way with it. Yeah,
it's cool, right? I think they did it really well, and the fact that they gave agency to the relationship of Mole Man and his people, his domain, to not just be an evildoer. He had, he wasn't just he was a little bit more complex. Not a lot more complex, but a little bit. He was also a plot tool. So I liked that stuff. I didn't find that to be, and I also found that the things we talked about with Superman, the fact that they evacuated the city before they destroyed it. I was thinking about Rob the whole time when buildings fell right. I didn't have any problems, but Rob is just nodding there, and it makes me nervous. Like I can't stop talking. I feel like he's about to do his thing.
I'm enjoying this. No, like I got to tell you, I looked at this so much from show me the story you want to tell. And the thing that is amazing about this is we have this talk in Superman. They showed, they didn't tell. That montage, which, by the way, kudos to Michael Giacchino. That song, which is from the score, Fantastic Four to Be Reckoned With, that's the name of the sequence during the montage, is one of his best pieces of music I have ever heard. It has been on repeat ever since the soundtrack dropped. That whole montage, that's what I wanted Superman to do. If they would have done that, it would have done huge benefit to that story. In this story, it's great. Here's the weird issue I had with the first act, which is a little bit about the story of the family. It was almost too brilliant. That montage is so good. The casting on this movie is so good. I felt like the first act was lagging. And I will tell you what it's missing is tell me the same background story of Galactus, because that's where I'm failing to understand. Like, I know I'm here. If you want to hear one of my controversial statements is, I got Kang Quantumania vibes with the way that they treated Galactus in this movie. And that's what's missing in the first act is, you know what? After you've showed me the montage of the family, now go hyperspace to the other end of the universe and show me the story so that at least I can understand what we're dealing with. And that's something that was lacking, I think, in the first act.
I had that same problem because I got to the point where they're in hyperspace on their way to confront Galactus. And it was like, I don't know, 35 minutes, 40 minutes in the movie. And I was like, when does this movie start? Because I was still sort of in the, okay, we had like the domestic scene and then the montage and then the reaction and I was like, is this real yet? Like, is this actually happening?
Okay, so the thing I just want to say about this whole issue with Galactus is he was presented as a giant Grail Knight zombie.
Okay, I'm going to need more.
Okay, yeah, break that down.
The Grail Knight from Last Crusade. He is somehow the keeper that is waiting for someone to pick up so he can end, and he's a zombie. He's got to eat. That's all I got from this. That's missing. They need to help tell his story better, because I know that there's a whole answer to all this. It's just not in this movie.
Yeah, so I'm of kind of two minds on this. On the one hand, Kyle, I think you have me convinced to some extent that a first movie could have been really helpful, because I don't want an origin story, but
no, I don't either. But it was like when they did that montage of like, here's all the bad guys we just defeated. I was like, I would have liked to have seen that, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I think Mole Man is just a far more interesting enemy than Galactus as presented here. Galactus as presented here seems like the most boring enemy that the MCU has ever given us, which is so because it sounds like he's supposed to be so much more. But I wanted to see more of, I wanted to see, this movie is all about the break with the relationship we've established. And I think that in Superman, it wasn't needed because, and granted, this is more what I spent the last couple months leading up to the Superman movie watching Superman and Lois and watching the earlier movies. And I think there is so much other content that's not in this universe, but that is out there that so I have seen Superman healing everybody and doing all those things in a way that I haven't seen the Fantastic Four doing. The flip side, though, that I'll give is that I do think it's possible to both introduce characters and really spend a lot of time showing them as they are before showing the break. And I think it happened in the, unfortunately, very ignored in this conversation, third really important, really good superhero movie that came out in July, which is K-pop Demon Hunters, which I think is phenomenal. If any of you haven't watched it, definitely do so.
Yeah.
It's very much a superhero movie.
I saw
it's
that.
just not an American
really
superhero movie.
Yeah.
But in that, they spend, in part because they wait until like halfway through the movie to really introduce the, okay, now the public is turning on them, now they're turning on each other kind of thing. And well, granted, you see the seeds of it, you see it coming. Like, I think if they had done something like that, where like there had been some scene, like the surfer had appeared but hadn't given the full message, or like we'd seen some, and maybe there's not enough time to do that in this movie, and that, yeah, maybe it could have been an earlier movie, but I certainly think it's possible. They just didn't do, because yeah, by the time that the public was also mad at the Fantastic Four, I think I know what the relationship is, and I think I know what Galactus is, but you're right, we hadn't really gone into detail about it.
The challenge I think I have with Galactus, and I'm willing to acknowledge this might be a me thing. I know the comic legacy of Galactus, and if you look at the Galactus trilogy, right, the sort of source material from the 60s, I know that we get Galactus backstory, and he talks about it in this movie, that he was immortal
which was a shock to me, of like they're like, hey, I just met you.
Yeah.
Here's where I came from. Like, whoa, man.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Like,
this is the.
We haven't even told you our names yet, and you're already giving us
sad
your
eternal
origin
segment of the thing.
Yeah.
I get that there exists backstory that does support the fact that Galactus was a mortal explorer and was commingled with the sentience of the universe and became Galactus, and now just has to feed to sustain his existence. All of that I understand, and yet my Galactus from when I was a lad reading these things contemporaneously was Galactus was the Joker to Batman. Galactus was the inevitability of doom that we must adapt to in order to fight. And backstory did not matter. And I felt like this movie walks the edge of trying to define too much when it maybe should have defined less. Not less so much that, what was the Transformer movie where the planets were being eaten?
Unicron.
The Unicron story. But something akin to that, because going into this movie, I had no idea how they were going to make Galactus feel real and resonant, and were they going to make it something that I was going to be able to care about? And the challenge was they almost made me care more than I should have for something that should have been omnipresent, amoral destruction.
Right. Well, and I think that's great, because if a central part of the movie is the Fantastic Four and the world trying to decide what to do about Galactus, I think that becomes worse the more they know. Because if they can the fact is they don't sympathize with him. They don't know his motivations. They don't know his origin story. They just know they're going to die. And I like that, because I think most moral decisions are not made with full information. And that's worth discussing. And like, in some ways, if they'd framed it like that, I think you could have gotten the Explorer. If it had been, hey, right now, from what we know, there's this terrible ethical choice, but we're explorers. We want to learn more. We learn more about Galactus, and that helps us kind of get out of this Kobayashi Maru of either the baby or everyone and find a third choice. I think that would have been a fantastic way to approach it.
There was a Torchwood miniseries where a bunch of aliens showed up, and they said, "Oh, hey, we've got this amazing technology. We can help solve pretty much all your problems." And they prove it, like they had, like we can do this. All we want is half. And they're like, "Oh, what do you mean half?" of your children, we just want half, and we will solve all the world's problems. And that escalates over the course of the entire world going, what do we do with this? And they took like 6 episodes, I think, of that and it gets right into it. Here they try and resolve the whole thing in like 20 minutes. And I kind of went, well, but there's a lot bigger conversations. For me, it sort of lost it when they go to Galactus. He says, I want the kid and I'll spare your world. And they have that thing. And he said, oh, now I'm going to take your kids and I'm going to make you watch. And I was like, wait, no.
Right, that's the point at which
Hold
he's
on.
not amoral
Galactus,
hunger. He's cruel. He's malevolent.
Right. He just does, like, Galactus's thing is he doesn't care. Like, he literally just doesn't care. He is that force of the universe. Like, no, I'm just going to eat your planet. The end. I am the end. So yeah, when it sort of became like, I was like, oh, but no, then he just becomes Thanos but big.
That was the biggest problem right there.
I would say, since we're kind of dancing around it, can I just bring up the ethical question that seems to be at the center of this? Because it does seem a lot of what we're talking about is how it's framed. And I'm going to give a bit of backstory to my own perspective on this. So as we were discussing before we went on the pod, my partner recently had our baby. I have been a father for exactly 2 weeks as of today. And one of the hardest moments for me was maybe 90 minutes after our baby was born. Because there's a possible infection, they had to do a bunch of blood draws. They took the baby into another room. I was the only one who went in there with him, and I was kind of holding him while they were doing this. And they weren't doing a very good job. And they were sticking him and not get it, and he didn't like it, and he was upset. And I am a person deeply committed to nonviolence, and I have never been so close to throwing a punch as I was at age 12 getting bullied. I was the lizard brain in me was so ready to fight this. And of course, that was all I could think about in this movie. But the thing is, I don't think that's a good part of humanity. I think one of the worst things we do is when our desire to protect, to defend what is ours, our partners, our children, our property, leads us to be willing to like throw away everybody else. And I won't get too political about it, but I think that's a lot of the fear mongering is about like your children are under attack. So everybody else because we have to protect your children, your parents. I think if the final question is, do you give up your individual child to save humanity? And I would say, I also understood it as, and this is maybe something that again, the comic books were clear on, but here it wasn't. I understood it as you give Galactus the baby, he stops. And there's no one else who takes, it's not that the baby becomes Galactus 2.0. No more worlds are destroyed. For me, that's absolutely not a question. Of course you give up the baby. Of course you do. It's horrific and terrible and awful. But, and here's also where are they official? You know, like if you're a firefighter and you're in a fire and there's 10 people in one room you can save or your child in the other, you're supposed to save the 10. And maybe that's not fair. And maybe that's not, but that's generally why we don't have people fight fires in the neighborhoods that they're in. And especially in the sense of like, to me, if the governments of the world have said, you are our saviors, then that's your responsibility more than it is to one individual soul who is obviously the most important thing in the world to you. And I really liked Sue's speech about like, we need you to not give up on us, but we also won't give up on you. But it also felt like they were kind of like, I wish they had wrestled with that more and wrestled more with what is our responsibility to each other or to this larger whole, and how do we balance that, and coming to a way of like, can we find a third way? But I think the movie was acting as though, of course they won't give up their baby. Why in the world would they? That's not even a question worth discussing. And for me, I was like, well, hang on. I think more than anyone can understand at a visceral level why it would be almost impossible to do that. But why I think if the whole world had been like, we're taking that baby and saving 5 billion people or whatever it is, I wouldn't think they're wrong. If any members of Child Protective Services are listening to this, please don't take my baby away. I love my baby. I'll protect my baby at all costs.
Baby is safe.
So I would say my only response to that is that I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure that every ethical test is under the same context. So it's one thing to say, if a firefighter has the sworn responsibility to save 10 versus the 1, yes, regardless of who the 1 is or where the 10 are, right? But in this narrative, if you witnessed a machine that could eat a planet from the inside out, my first thing is deals are off the table. Like, deals are laughable at that point, right? So yeah, we're going to fight. Because when faced with global annihilation on a system that we don't even understand, yeah, we're going to fight. And I have no issues with that choice.
Well, and I think, to be clear, the question as I'm phrasing it, that I think the movie wanted us to talk about, but then kind of didn't, is only if you believe the deal and you believe, like, because if you believe that Franklin will just go on to be Galactus 2.0, then no, it's not ethically worth it. If you believe that Galactus will be like, cool, I have the baby, but I'm still going to eat y'all because, like, you're tasty, then yeah, of course it doesn't make any sense.
But that, interestingly, is a premise that I didn't walk away understanding the way you did. My understanding was,
Correct.
You give me the baby and I will let this Earth survive. I'm going to go on and I'm going to keep eating things. And Franklin, because of his cosmic future, is going to take over my mantle so that I can rest eventually. Those things are going to continue. So really, you're giving up the baby to save just you. Cosmically, that's the deal, and that's where the deal ends. I also think for a summer blockbuster popcorn movie, wrestling with a question of should we really give up the baby any harder than they did would have been catastrophic for the review.
This is what my main problem with this is, that, like, just to step back from the moral question of why does Fantastic Four First Steps, which once again, terrible title, have to take this on? Well, I say Fantastic. Maybe. Four, no. First steps, where? Of what? To where? No, they had, like, clearly in the opening scene we established they have already taken their first steps. This is step 4 or 5. But there's so much lore to go immediately from, like, hey, you're meeting the Fantastic Four and now they have a kid. And it's like, but you're skipping all of this stuff, all of this interesting thing. Why? Like, it was almost greedy to me, of, like, they wanted so badly to get to, like, we got to get to Silver Surfer, we got to get to Galactus, we got to get to Franklin Richards. I'm like, but you're skipping all of this stuff, this great stuff to get us to a point where we care, because we never get to see this Sue Storm, the most amazing Sue Storm we've ever had.
100%.
We only get to see her as a mom. We never get to see her as the Invisible Woman. Obviously, she's the Invisible Girl because the 60s. But we never get to have her as just, like, she's already matronly by the time we meet her. We never get to see her as just like a regular person and not in the role of mom. Like the.
I mean, from the jump too. I mean, really,
opening
we
scene.
meet her on the toilet with the pregnancy test.
Hey, wait, by the way, I'm glad you just mentioned that. Did all of you see the pregnancy test on the counter and think for a second it said Stark? No, it's Stork.
I think it did.
But I got to tell you,
okay.
at first glance, I was like, wait, was that
one point
Stark Industries make pregnancy tests? What kind of universe is this?
I mean, it's a universe where Tony doesn't go on to become a superhero, so clearly he just starts making stuff. I agree with you. I don't think a summer blockbuster is the time. I mean, I would love a summer blockbuster that, wrestle these deep ethical questions. I'd also love the Jets to win the Super Bowl. And I think both of those are equally never going to happen in my lifetime. I think that's why, like, to me, it just felt weird that they posed that question without wrestling it. Because to me, the other part of it is, I definitely didn't get the idea that, like, he would go on to eat other worlds. I thought this would end his hunger. But also, like, if the idea is, well, it's wrong to just save humanity and some other planet, what about wherever they're teleporting him to? Like, their planet's out. He's going to be hungry. He's going to find some other planet. It's just not going to be humanity. So, yeah,
not our problem anymore.
I kind of wish they hadn't brought up that level of ethical depth.
NIMBY.
In a format where obviously it's the wrong place to wrestle with it.
Yeah, when they establish it up and they start talking about it, there is a Fantastic Four scenario where Reed figures out how to cure Galactus' hunger. And so you get to meet Galactus as a person as a space god who no longer has this central defining thing. And what does that mean? I was like, oh, are they doing that? I'm like, oh no, they're just going back to that. Okay.
That would have been great.
Maybe because all of you knew more about this, but I've been avoiding spoilers like the plague, especially when I found out that RDJ was coming back as Doomsday. That seemed so stupid. I was just not thinking about it. For a minute, I thought the way this was setting up was how they get to 616.
We all did.
Because I thought what has happened is they send Galactus to there.
Yeah.
And then they have to be like, oh, we just sent it to another Earth. we have to go through, and now we're going to
that's
join
really
up with the
good.
Avengers to take on Galactus again.
I thought they were going to teleport Earth to 616.
Oh, yeah, I thought
or
that
to
would
the
work, too.
whatever, Earth 19999 or whatever they call it. Yeah, that's what I thought originally. Like it was something was going to go wrong in classic Reed fashion, and they would end up in a different universe.
Alas, and I don't think that question is answered even as we connect. And I think this movie is playing the hits of Fantastic Four, and those hits are Silver Surfer, Galactus, and Doctor Doom. So let's look first at Silver Surfer. This is Julia Garner's Silver Surfer. I actually thought Silver Surfer was a real high point in the movie. I really enjoyed Julia Garner's take on it. I enjoyed even the flashback montage. I think she did a really nice job kind of portraying the Herald. Thoughts?
Yeah. I did not have a problem with Silver Surfer in I thought that was the high point of the previous two films, the Fox ones too, when the combination of Doug Jones, one of my favorites, and Lawrence Fishburne together, I thought that character was fantastically rendered in a movie that frankly, he was better than the rest of the movie that was around this too. But to get back to this, to switch over from Norrin Radd to Shia LaBeouf was a great idea because you get to see the character in a new way. And I thought pretty much everything they did with her worked fantastically. And we got to have the fact that Johnny was the smart one to do it, which was what a great point that was. We'll come around to the four. We haven't really talked about the four. Having Johnny be the one to induce a moral quandary with her, like basically like, hey, you're complicit in the deaths of that was his big move. I was like, that's amazing. Like honestly, like even now,
what a great sub story. What a great subplot. And it elevates that character in a way you never saw coming.
And it was so frustrating that it took so long for her to come back around too, because that whole fight with Galactus, I'm like, come on.
Well, no, they wanted you to forget. They wanted you to forget about her, so the moment is even better than what you expect.
Yeah, she was brilliant.
I love her character, love everything about her, and oddly enough, I'm the ethicist going to be the first one to bring up visual effects. Having her, I don't know if this is normal, but having her not only be silver but being fundamentally reflective led to some of the most brilliant shots in the movie. And to me, the first one was one of the first times that she's chasing Johnny and he's basically created this circle of fire that she is flying through. And so the flames are reflected in her. If you could get me a poster of that, I'd put it up because it was just such a brilliant, it was such a brilliant visual effect. And also, I loved what they did with Johnny and her because I feel like it told me so much about Johnny because it told me that, yes, he is the party boy. He is all these things, but he's also smarter than that. And he's not a himbo. He has some real brains to him. But also, why is it that he goes on this journey of wanting to show that he can figure all this out? Because the pretty girl rejected him. Like obviously there's a lot more going on there, but also he was trying to hit on the Silver Surfer and she had nothing to do with him. And he's like, well, I got to learn her language now. And I thought that was such a brilliant way of not making him a joke, not making him here's the three serious heroes and he just wants to drink beer. They didn't make him that version of the Flash that we see so often. He wasn't a party boy. He was just I just thought he was phenomenal in that.
Yeah. He went full Barney Stinson from How Much Better, of having to I'm going to do all of this work just to try and get this one girl to like me.
Oh, I feel like if this was a John Hughes movie, he would have been John Cusack, right? Like this is, it would have been great.
But you all know who that actor is, right? Where we've last seen him?
No.
Stranger Things.
He's Eddie Munson.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which knocked me off because it's such a
and
different
he's British.
So different.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
Doing all of that in an American
all things
accent.
being equal.
Yeah. All the kudos.
That is a different take on him that we've seen in the previous Fantastic Four movies. And there was depth to it. And I love that. Now again, that, creating an entire new rubric to come up with a whole new language translation is probably a little bit outside of his intellect, but I'm just going to ignore that. And that's fine. It was worth it.
Since we're talking about Human Torch, and let me just say, Human Torch was always my favorite of the Fantastic Four. And
okay. For me it was Ben. It was the Thing.
The Thing was yours. Well, and now that the Thing grows a beard,
a
cinematic Thing beard,
cosplay as him. This is
so
great.
Good. But they there were some bits of shorthand, like the fact that the fire never had to worry about his clothes. It was just a great little bit of shorthand.
I can't believe it in this movie. They never said the word unstable molecules.
Right.
Like that was like that's a fundamental thing. I would think.
It is foundational to the cosmic energy. But since we're talking about the four, let us do the rundown. So starting now, or I guess second, with Dad Mode Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards.
There will come a day when I see Pedro Pascal in a role that I don't instantly fall in love. That day has not yet come.
Nope.
His speech about how he can't stop thinking about the worst case scenarios was just for me, like, I was the person who, when we were like, we tried really hard to have this child. It took 3 years. We almost went to like a lot of medical intervention stuff. And about halfway in the pregnancy, I had to find the right moment to bring up, what are we going to do if something goes wrong? If there's some like terrible choice we have to make. And my partner was like, I don't want to think about that. And I was like, I know. I can't stop thinking about that though. And so I've never identified so much. Granted, probably because I'm a new father, but like, I just thought, and he made that role believable. He made it believable that he was a leader, but because of his just who he was, not because he was dictatorial or something like that. I believed him being the most incredibly brilliant. Yeah, I just thought he was like fantastic in that role.
I would just say it took us maybe 6 movies to get to the sweet, vulnerable core of Tony Stark. It took 28 minutes to do it with Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Kudos to Pedro Pascal for this, because it's outstanding. And the writing. Let's not forget, the dialogue is what did it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say, I was worried it was just going to be another Tony Stark. And that really showed me this is not the same character. This is a very different character.
Yeah, you hire a Pedro Pascal, you get a Pedro Pascal, you get what you pay for. But that was, I guess, my thing is that it was so in his wheelhouse that it was, for me, it was like, oh, okay, so this is just The Mandalorian and Last of Us. I mean, like, this is just, you're just playing the same, like, where we know that he has this, you watch him on SNL, and you see this entire other range that he's not getting to do anymore because he's now the internet's sad dad, so that's all he gets to do. And that bummed me out a little bit because Reed is more than that. And, I mean, there's sort of fundamental things that I think of as being part of Reed's character that aren't in this at all. So I had a hard time sort of connecting it back to sort of the Reed Richards that I sort of understood, but no shade on his performance. I'm sure that's what they were going for. And the idea, in the same way that when they established Spider-Man in the MCU and had him be a science geek, I was like, oh yes, what a brilliant take. I never thought of that. Like, oh, is that a mechanical arm? Like that I was like, oh, I never thought of that, but it fits perfectly. And having him as the person who thinks of all the worst things in the world and tries to fix it absolutely tracks. But it was all this other stuff of like, well, he's not a good husband, like historically, not a good husband, not a good leader. Like, he is constantly distracted and in his own head, but also has like verbal diarrhea. He just like will talk and talk and talk and talk. And the idea that he's just the silent brooding guy, I was like, oh, that doesn't quite line up for me. But it was, once again, interpretations of characters, and you have to sort of, get in your head like oh, this is what their version of it is, it's not about me.
Doesn't make it wrong.
Doesn't make it wrong. Yeah.
We only saw it for a moment, but I would have loved to see more of him as the bad teacher. The teacher who is just himself so fascinated by his subject that he cannot fathom and thus cannot reach people who don't get the subject. Like, we got 10 seconds of that.
Yes, that is 100% like built into his character, and it like almost never shows up.
Vanessa, Kirby, Sue Storm, the thing I regret when you talk about the fact that there's a first movie out there that we haven't seen is that one of my favorite origin, like getting the powers stories, is Sue Storm's, because her powers are crazy. And I think figuring out what is this energy that I can make shields and I can influence others and I can be invisible. And here she's already in complete control of everything that she can do. And I miss the charm of watching her figure it out. And that was something, honestly, I'm going to say, Jessica Alba, I think, did pretty well in the clumsiness and chaos of figuring out how to be Sue Storm. That said, peak dad moment for me was her saying, you got to stop running these tests. You want to see? Let's see. And just showing the baby inside her own uterus. I thought that was extraordinarily cool. What an incredible visual effects flex and a great emotional beat. Sue Storm, thoughts?
I am going to tell you flat out, I think she steals the show. Chalk this up to another one of my coincidences between this and Superman. The female lead, for me, was pitch perfect to the character. More so than almost everybody else. She is absolutely incredible. The moment where she says, where they're having the conversation when she's having it with Reed, when he's talking about, I'm manic and you know who I am, and she looks at him and says, yeah, and sometimes who you are hurts. If you're a spouse, if you have a spouse who has to deal with your manicness and your chaos, that is one of the most profound pieces of dialogue I've seen in a Marvel movie ever. It is outrageous. And the way she does it, I can't imagine. There's nobody else I can imagine playing that role in that movie. That is a huge testament to her. It's phenomenal.
Especially because, I don't want to turn this into group therapy, but I assume all of us may have to some extent these issues. But for me especially, like, yes, that moment hurts, but what hurts far worse is the partner who won't say that. The partner says, no, it's fine. It's fine. And you can see that your manicness or your depression or whatever it is hurting them. And you don't know how to stop, and they won't acknowledge. And so, like, to me, it felt like such an act of love and of trust of her to say that. And yeah, I think I utterly loved her as a character. She was a character I really cared about. I did not for a second believe that she was going to die. And so I was very annoyed at that moment. I think mostly what I was feeling, though, was how her character made me feel how 1960s this whole thing was. To the point where, honestly, I felt in a world of Bechdel tests, I thought the Silver Surfer was going to join them by the end, just so she'd have another woman around, you know? Because, yeah, it did feel like she got... I've spoken a lot with Jessica Plummer on my Superhero Ethics show about how, like, in some of the not-so-good runs of Fantastic Four, she is very much, even if there's not Franklin around, but she's like a mother to her husband and her little brother and to Ben, and that's not her best side. And so I agree with you, like, seeing her only as pregnant and then mother of a newborn child. But that speech she gives to the crowd about how they need to understand that they won't sacrifice the baby, but they also won't sacrifice Earth. Loved it. Absolutely loved every moment of it. To me, that's exactly where, like, a superhero perspective should be. And has long been, it was sort of like Pete was talking about, had long been just like, oh, she can turn invisible and she can put up a shield, and that was it. And then it was sort of, as the thing went on, they went like, well, what if there's no limit to what she actually can do? And so her power has grown. And so now she is regarded in the regular comedy as one of the most powerful people out there. And so to see that on screen, she goes toe to toe with a space god and pushes him back. I mean, there's some great, interesting stuff and great acting stuff too, but that is pure comic book moment, and that was what I was absolutely thrilled about, is having her exert her will and push Galactus down the street. That is like that is one of the best Fantastic Four moments of all time,
where you realize, like, whoa, wait a minute.
Exactly.
And I don't want to take away from that at all. I think it is great sometimes for that you have to do some homework for a movie, but for me, going into it not knowing it all meant utterly nothing. Because I didn't know it. I just like, oh, okay, that's how, like, and there I think maybe, Kyle, you're really making me around. If I'd seen a movie about her learning that power and wrestling that power and not thinking that she had that power, but among other things, you can lift a car off your baby because that's what it does. Her baby, her family is in danger. That's how she finds that power. I think, yeah, I love that they had that for the people who knew the characters. I wish they'd done more to set it up for us peasants.
Yeah, this is why I felt like there was just a missing movie. Because same thing with now we come to The Thing, like one of my all-time favorite characters, and so they absolutely, God, I think they great casting. The effects were amazing. The fact that he actually looked at that and growing the beard, I thought was just a fun twist too. But
fantastic.
He was already sort of past all of the stuff that like Rob was talking about with Tony Stark's arc. He was past all of it and like just sort of like, well, this is what my life is. I'm like, but I don't want Ben to suffer. And Ben Grimm is as a nice like guy who's affable and everybody gets along with is great. But there also is a sadness to him that they only kind of show with him sadly looking in windows. But that's it. Like, like so they sort of, I feel like for Johnny too, Johnny was a himbo who like just was a party boy, like you see the Coppertone ad and stuff too, and then eventually grows and becomes worthy, and so that's where we meet him. And the same thing, Sue as ignored, obviously she's the housewife that has to take care of them all, and then moving into being the most powerful, potentially of the group. We missed all that. So like we meet them after all their character arcs are finished. And so it's a little bit like, okay, you're having to, that's why I felt bad. I'm like, I feel like everyone has to catch up to what they're doing now, and without knowing any of the stuff that came before. And the movie stumbles right out of the gate doing that.
The Ben Grimm bit is the most interesting one to me, because the Ben Grimm transformation is one of great grief, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else can pass, right? There is a passing motif. You can choose not to stretch, Mr. Fantastic. You can choose to just be not invisible. You can choose to not be on fire. You cannot choose not to be made of rock.
I don't know if Johnny can choose that.
Right. Because it's not Ben up there on the Coppertone ad.
Exactly. It is something completely different. And I think missing that's doing a little bit of short shrift to future implementations of Ben Grimm in the movie. We don't have his sad backstory in order to see what he's accomplished to be able to become a hero in Doomsday, in wherever he goes from here. And I share that regret, because that's always one of my favorite sort of adaptation stories.
That he still gets up and does the job anyway.
Yes.
That's my thing.
Yes.
Like he can never go back. He can't even buy regular clothes, and yet he still gets up and punches Galactus in the face.
And also Natasha Lyonne was here.
One of the most powerful moments in the entire movie for Ben is when they are at the dinner table and she realizes that she's pregnant. Let me tell you something. Those eyes is one of the most expressive CGI moments ever in the history of CGI.
Yes.
Because if you know the backstory of the characters, that's his moment where he realizes, oh, I love you. And if case Matthew didn't know that, right? There's a whole backstory to that. And that's the moment where he realizes, and now we're done. And now I bury those emotions for the rest of my existence.
Oh, you don't mean he loves her like a sister?
No,
you mean
he
had a
loved
crush
her.
on her at
Yes.
some point?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was no way.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But for those who know, that moment,
Yeah. Shout out to ILM or whatever of the 15 special effects companies, because it's so subtle. And the fact that we can get to that point where a big stone guy silently, you can read the emotions on his face. I don't know if that was motion capture or whatever it was. I took a team, I know. But yeah, that was incredible. They would just cut back to him, and him like waiting for Johnny to catch up. Just like, okay.
Yep.
Like,
And
all right.
the fact that we have it in the person of Ibn Mas Bakrach, who is such an incredible performer, and we already know for fans of The Bear just what incredible range this guy has as a performer. Stunning turns from...
I don't think it was in any way coincidental that they introduce him knowing that background, and the first thing he does is taste something in a kitchen and talk about it. That was like, Bear fans, this is for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And I will say there's one other thing where they made a lot more progress than anything I've ever seen, but I wish they'd gone just a little further. The MCU has been really bad about Jewish representation. You know, we have Magneto for sure, but Wanda is supposed to be both Jewish and Romani. That's been taken out. I thought Moon Knight was really great, but some people weren't thrilled about it. And so the fact that he goes into a synagogue, I thought was a really nice moment. I didn't love that she then says, "Why are you here?" And he says, "I'm here for you," because to me that that means he's finding Jewish community, not necessarily that he himself is Jewish. I wish it had been more like, because this is where my community is and you're here or something. But still, being that explicit about linking him to Judaism, I really appreciated. And like, I think this is to underline, to me, that's not the most important thing about his character. It's to underline everything else you've talked about. But for me, as a person with Jewish family, like, that is something I care about a lot. And I was very happy that did not get kind of swept under the rug.
But wait a minute. I think you misinterpret that. She says that because he's delayed connecting to her. Because what they imply is that they have that first moment where she comes across the street, talks to him, and says, "Well, yeah, come on over." And then they show you where he's not doing that, and it's implied that months go by. When he shows up, she says that to him because she's begging him to say "me." That's actually why she says that. It's not an insult. It's a, well, it took you long enough.
I get all that. I'm just saying that I wish they had done just a little more to show that that's not the only reason he's going into a synagogue.
At that moment, when everyone's thinking they're going to die.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
I do wonder what the intention is of Ben's sort of romantic path going forward, because it's not a significant part of this movie. It was a Tuesday afternoon for Natasha Lyonne, and yet Ben Grimm's efforts to find love again are legion. Like, I love the whole concept, the conceit of Ben Grimm finding himself and finding being able to be comfortable in a relationship. They've done that before, and it's awesome. And I think this movie was already packed full, and we didn't have a lot of Johnny. I mean, Johnny's sort of romanticizing Silver Surfer is plot, right? Like that's plot. This is not plot. This is a side story, and I don't know that we needed it. I wonder if Natasha Lyonne's going to get a run in a later film. I don't know. It seemed like wasted space to me.
I know. It seems like Kat Dennings has done well for herself after her one Marvel movie, and then I don't think it's so maybe people then she'll be back. I thought it was interesting because even though I was very obviously Natasha Lyonne, she was so different than the poker face Natasha Lyonne.
Right.
I was like, oh, I forgot what a good actress you are. I keep thinking that you're just playing yourself, but no.
She's wonderful. And no disrespect to Natasha Lyonne.
No.
What I wanted was more or nothing. What we got was just too much of a tease for me.
Mm-hmm.
For the nerds, looking at you, Kyle. Any of your favorite Easter eggs, like anything that we got in this movie that felt like this is fan service, this is a love note?
Well, a couple things. I haven't figured. I haven't watched. I'm sure New Rockstars has a whole breakdown at this point. But apparently, the actors from the Roger Corman are in it somewhere. Did you? I didn't see
several times.
They're
in there somewhere.
They're media. They're.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's one of the clips when the bubbles come out where people saying "Thank you, Fantastic Four."
Yes.
Yeah. The four of them are in one of those shots, in addition to a few other voiceovers.
I knew they were there somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. That was on Herbie. Okay, so for those you don't know, the '60s cartoon, the executives at the time thought we can't show a person on fire because kids might then set themselves on fire to be like the Human Torch. So the Human Torch was not allowed to be in the Fantastic Four cartoon and was replaced with a colorful, cute robot named Herbie. And so the fact that they actually have Herbie as a character who very Wall-E, doesn't have a voice but is very expressive, I thought was a nice way to have him in there and actually give him some stuff to do. They give him like plot. He's building the crib, like he's doing all that work.
Tape face. And then, I loved Tape face.
Yes.
They put his instructions in his face.
They swap out the tape.
Good.
The magnetic tape spinning. Yeah, nice future classic technology thing. Timely Comics, they do a shot of such what we're meant to think is probably Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in Timely Comics, which was what Marvel predecessor was, with the drawing boards. I'm sure there's probably some original Kirby sketches in there if we go back and look. And then back to, once again, Kirby does not get enough love. Then if you say at the end credits, you find out the reason it's called 828 is because that is Jack Kirby's birthday. That is why this is 828. So I thought that was it would be nice if they had done a little bit more like in the movie rather than like making wait through all the other people to be like, hey, this is the guy who literally created the look for all these characters. But something's better than nothing, and it is progress that Marvel is making in acknowledging their creators, and it's a big list at the end of people who have made significant runs in Fantastic Four and done a good job, which I thought was nice. Even Chip Zdarsky was really shocked that his name was in it.
Yes.
He was like, I don't know why. So those are my favorites.
If I can just jump into the very end there, I thought that was particularly nice because granted Stan Lee isn't alive anymore, but for so long, like Stan Lee was in so many Marvel movies in some way or another. And so, and I always have felt that like it really has felt like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Yes. And so having this movie specifically call out Kirby.
Yeah. And this is the most Kirby thing we've ever seen. Like, this is closest to his original design. I mean, Michael Chiklis did a fine job, but, like, his costume was not great.
Yeah, I've heard that Ben Grimm is kind of the closest that Kirby has ever come to putting himself into a comic book.
I think that if they had gone any more hard on Kirby fandom, they would have just CG'd Kirby for a cameo. which I think I would not have hated it.
Stan Lee got that mural in, what is it, Far From Home or whatever,
right?
Like the thing, I can't have a big Kirby up there, but
How about, so we talked briefly about the music. The music is a slam dunk. I think this score is extraordinary, and
I wish we had gotten that movie, the Michael Giacchino was scoring. That's the movie I wanted
for sure,
because he was on another level with that.
Yeah, as a whole, that's the movie I wanted. But I do want to talk about the look of the film because we're just coming off of Superman, which had color and light, and that was beautiful. This had a kind of color and light than I think we're accustomed to. This retro '60s thing, these color-coded labs and the pastels and the angles and curves, I think were really, really lovely. I think the visual sequences, the production design, I would die to live in their place. What'd you think of the general look and feel of this world?
It's incredible. The main area in the tower where they work, the 3 sections, the classroom, how it's color-coded, absolutely incredible. You definitely realize, though, I think this is the same production designer from Loki. So the TVA has very similar, which I thought that was actually great because it's almost like you're starting to connect the threads, and I think that's actually good. Just incredible. I mean, the Times Square, the vehicle design, the rocket, like it's a gorgeous space that you want to actually live in. I will tell you, if anybody ever went, I know there's some of the groups that are working like on using some of the 3D engines. I would love to just explore this in a virtual reality setting.
I think Zillow had a promotion where you could tour the Baxter Building on the Vision Pro, for example. I think you could get a tour of it. I'm not sure. I didn't do it.
Oh, I know what I'm doing later today.
I mean, I think the best compliment I can make to the visual style of this movie is that I came home, and one of the first things I did was one of the closest things I think you can do to touring the visual style of this movie.
Yeah.
I booted up Fallout.
Oh, yeah.
Fallout.
Yeah.
Because I think about it, I think there's a robot-like thing that's very much like Herbie in that. And for those who haven't played the video game, it's about a post-nuclear Holocaust kind of world, but where it happened in the 1960s. And so everything is kind of like 1960s futuristic. And yeah, I love that idea. It reminded me a lot of, I don't know if any of you have seen, this is kind of dating me, but Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
That's much more like 1920s vision of the future. But Art Deco, incredible stuff. So yeah, I just thought the visual was great. I thought, I wanted Galactus to be a lot bigger for him to make sense, but I thought the visuals of him, those eyes, were so powerfully done. Why does Galactus need a spaceship? Can I just ask a potentially dumb question?
Yeah.
Sure. He's got to eat.
Well,
he's got to eat.
Yeah, it's like the ship transforms the planet into the food that sustains
It's
him.
a mulcher.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
He doesn't literally just like eat the planet like with his mouth.
So wait, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So hold on, 2 questions I have. One, what do they do with the ship that's now in orbit of the Earth? And what happens to Galactus? What does he do? Is he just like land somewhere on a planet across the universe, chomping on a daisy field? Like, what's happening?
He landed on the planet that Thanos ended up on at the end of Infinity War. Just like now he's a farmer growing giant melons.
But I had a lot of questions. The ending gives you a lot of questions.
But none of them will be answered because it's all getting wiped away.
Is it?
Is the scale of Galactus to everything else about what it should be in the comics? Because the way I heard about him, I always thought he was like big enough to like pop a planet.
No.
Like
this is. I mean, I think that I'm sure they think he should be a little bit bigger, but like this is about right. Like in terms of like standing and looking up. It was in his first appearance, which I thought they were going to do. Reed comes up with something called the Ultimate Nullifier, which I keep waiting for it to show up in an MCU thing. And basically, it's a little click thing, but what it does is it destroys whatever you're looking at and you. So that's what. So Reed stands up to him and goes, "Okay, look, I have this, and you can you scan it, know what it is. I will kill you and myself." And that's what gets Galactus to be like, okay, Earth off the menu. Like and of course he comes back many times. But I thought that was a great thing in terms of Reed being like, I'm willing to absolutely wipe myself from existence. Like, not just I don't die, like I am stricken from all existence, and you will be too. But eventually I'm sure it'll show up at some point. But
okay, but he needs the spaceship more as a It's because he did seem like this interdimensional immortal being, but you can't like just coast through space on your own. He needs the ship to.
Yeah,
mulch,
I don't think. I think wherever if he's in open space, but he's still alive. I saw he's out there, so he doesn't. I don't think he ever really like dies. But he obviously doesn't have this.
No, and I imagine we're going to come back to him at some point, right?
Yeah. No.
Wait. What do you mean?
Okay, so the next movie is called Avengers Doomsday. The movie after that is called Avengers Secret Wars. If you follow the Secret War stuff, all of this is going away. It's all going. So this world 828 we'll probably see it in the opening scene of Doomsday, and then it will be wiped from existence, along with 1999 and the Foxverse and all of it. It's all going away. So man, update your resumes, pack up your stuff, because it's all going away.
So hold on a second, because you raised a great point. They're already talking about they had destroyed the set. Like they're filming on that set
absolutely.
right now. Wait, well, I don't understand. Like that's it?
That's it. This is my as fan theory, nerd theory. I have no evidence of this. I don't dig into spoilers.
I don't know anything
about
what Doomsday means, but I think that the fact that they're going directly from this into Avengers movies.
Well, Spider-Man.
Like, I would love to think there's going to be a Fantastic Four 2 and 3, but I don't think there's going to be. In part because this isn't Chris Evans at the start of his career. You're not going to get Pedro Pascal to sign a 10-movie deal, because he's got Star Wars and he's got Last of Us and he's got saving transgender world because he's an amazing advocate. Like, he's just got like everybody wants to. He's got to be in Star Trek at some point. Like, he's got to complete the whole geek thing.
I don't want to get too into like fan. We could have a separate like fan theory about like what I think is going to happen. But if they follow,
that's all I really want to do right now, Kyle, because you just set it up. I just want to.
Okay.
You honestly don't think that Feige and team could find a way to bring Galactus back?
Will? No. I think Galactus is gone forever. Okay. So all right. So then consider this fan theory, essentially. If taking from what I know of the MCU and the comic books, what's going to happen in the opening scene of Avengers Doomsday is we're going to meet Dr. Doom, who's going to look a lot like Iron Man, Tony Stark, but no one's going to know that because Tony Stark doesn't exist in this world. He's going to meet Franklin Richards, who has the power to literally rewrite reality. Yes. He is going to take that power from Franklin Richards and rewrite reality, where he is now the supreme being and rules everything, and that's ruling the multiverse. So it's all going away. So there will be probably at the end of Doomsday will be Dr. Doom wiping everyone from existence and rebooting it with him as God. And Secret Wars will be everyone going, hey, wait, this isn't how reality is supposed to be, as we're going to the opening scene of Avengers Secret Wars in 2028 or whatever it is, will be Doom World. And because it's already been in the comics, and we're going to have Doom as supreme being, and everyone will think that it has always been this way. Doom has always been our protector, our ruler, our God. And then every character from every Marvel movie that Disney owns will come together and start going, hey, wait, I don't think this is actually how it's supposed to be. And then there will be the revolution. And then at the end of the Avengers Secret Wars, a new universe will be born, which will have mutants and Spider-Man and X-Men and all of them in one, and Fantastic Four in one harmonious timeline. You will never see Loki again.
The Russos are doing Endgame Infinity War again, with Tony playing Dr. Doom this time, and he's the Thanos of the two movies.
Yes, but on an even grander scale, in that he's going to be like trimming off every piece of the multiverse, and so we're going to have one harmonious timeline of all of the previous Fox and Disney and every movies and animated thing in one thing. And so this 828 will no longer exist, and the Fantastic Four will always have been part of the MCU.
See, there are those of us who think that can't come too soon. I'm so done with multiverse. If they need to do $1 billion worth of movies
Honestly,
to get out from under it, fine.
That's true.
That's what we're going to. That's what they're going to do.
So what you're saying is that in that post-credit scene, he's healing his face.
Yes. So when he turns around, he won't be the scarred Doctor Doom. He will be Robert Downey Jr.
Tony.
Oh my!
Wow, you may be right. Okay, shout out to my nephew Mitchell, because this will break his heart to hear this. He's a big Galactus fan. Wow.
Okay,
that's big.
All right, I don't know if I want to bet against you. That sounds really legit. It's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me pulling from multiple things and putting them all into it, and that's the way I would sort of see it structuring.
Here's the deal: the fact that they were not on that ship that's in the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts really threw me.
So, because that's what's he's gonna take the power and go, and they'll have to chase him because the what the sacred timeline is based in Earth 1999.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about that, but I want to see it.
Yeah.
I am up for being surprised, but like all the things that people have told me that make me really excited about Doctor Doom, that sounds like none of it.
Yeah, when they said the empty chair for Latveria, I was like, oh, like I really wanted to meet Doom and have him, like, even to be like, hey, Reed, I see you're going to save the planet. Not without me, but no.
Hey, I have two quick things I do want to mention. One, did anybody feel like the final scene before the credits of them trying to get the baby seat in the car? Wait, can I honestly make a hot take on that? I needed to see more of that kind of humor in the movie, or else cut that scene.
Or move it. Like, move it.
Yes.
Like, for the earlier on. Yeah.
That seemed odd.
Yeah. Yeah. The family squabbling is fundamental to Fantastic Four.
I will just say to you, Rob, as someone who 8 days ago had done that struggle in 90-degree heat with my baby crying and like us all trying, because I had not related to a scene in a movie more, and I did love that. Car seats are nuts.
No, true.
I was like looking at this screen of going like, Rob has the farthest from that.
Yeah.
And then Pete, and then me, and now Matthew right away.
Right. I will say though that I accept that, but not in a movie where the main character can teleport things. I mean, you seem like he would have a better solution to that. So anyway, it just seemed odd. Okay, so real quick, the whole thing I will say. Did anybody else just get freaked out at the crazy coincidences between this movie and Superman? Both movies celebrate the silver golden age of comics. The female lead steals the show. The public turns on the antagonist. The funny non-human sidekick steals some scenes, and black holes save the day.
Oh, interesting.
There's probably more.
That is interesting.
We're going to get to the sky hole.
I mean, I would say the most obvious to me is they're both fundamentally about hope. They're both fundamentally about, like, to me, the Fantastic Four they're not dark and gritty. And I don't think it's a crazy conspiracy, because James Gunn worked with Marvel for a long time before going over there. And I would not, I don't think this was like some secret. I think probably the people making this movie were friends with James Gunn and were talking. And it's not that I think that they were like, let's have these two movies be similar. It's that I think they were both recognizing the public is really sick of dark and gritty and wants hope and wants family and wants lightheartedness. Yeah, so I think you're correct. The coincidences between them are ridiculous, but I don't think it's coincidence. I think it's both of them responding.
Yeah, everybody's drawing out the same idea. Well, they just happen to,
right.
Okay, we got to wrap it up, you guys. And this is what we do when it comes time to turn the corner. We visit our friends at letterboxd.com. Letterboxd.com/thenextreel. That's where all of the reviews and stars and hearts are corralled. We pick our stars and hearts from that corral and we apply them to the movie. And as you know, there is a limited number of stars and hearts, so you got to make sure you take it from another movie if you give it to this. That's my rule. Nobody else agrees. That's fine. You do you. All right. Let's see. How about start with Rob? Rob, what are you going to do?
Heart, of course. And what I got? I got 5 stars.
5 stars. Half
right?
stars count.
4.
Okay. It's a healthy.
The good stuff is really good.
Good stuff is really good.
Okay. Matthew?
I'm going to go solid 3.5. And my tagline for that is I'm really excited to see these characters again. I'm not super psyched up to watch this movie again.
There you go. I think that's a fair assessment. Kyle?
Yeah, that is well said, and I agree. So heart and 3.5 stars for me as well. I enjoyed it, and there was some unbelievable standout moments for me, and then a lot of choices where I was like, can we just pick up and move? Can we just move along? So yeah, pacing issues.
I'm not going to say I loved it, but I'm surprised that Rob came in with a 4. I'm going to be on Team Rob. 4 stars and a heart. I really enjoyed it. I think it is one of the better of the crop of Marvel entries right now. And this could have been a disaster. And let me just say, the one thing I have not said
that's
yet
very true. That is very true.
Is that I saw the stretch effects in the trailers and was unmoved. I thought that's going to be the thing that's going to destroy this movie. And it did not. I didn't think about it at all. I thought it was that when it was used effectively and quickly, and they didn't stop and let you look too closely at it until he starts Galactus stretches him at the end and the fabric starts ripping on the suit. That was a great moment and earned, and then they moved on. So I feel like maybe the technology has just caught up with what we needed to make Reed Richards actually look cool on screen.
Although I would say, I think one of the most brilliant choices was we never saw a zoom in on that moment. We watched Galactus hold him apart from fairly far away.
Yeah, we did. We get very close.
And I thought that was also really important.
Yeah,
because I don't think we have the technology to make it really look like he's that. I thought keeping us fairly far away in that shot.
Just remember, this is why Elastigirl is still the best Mr. Fantastic.
I was just about to throw it to you. I thought I was like, so Rob, what is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made?
The Incredibles. Okay, this has been great, y'all. Thank you so much for the quick turnaround, for seeing the movie, for being here on the film board, and make sure everybody listening to check out the shows of the Ethical Panda on True Story FM, Superhero Ethics. And Matthew, are you recording shows yet, or are you still full on break?
Yeah, so I have been in hiatus. We're not going to start posting things probably again until probably September, although we did do a review of Superman that I will be posting that is more focusing on the ethical questions. All the stuff that you cowards weren't willing to wrestle with. I don't know. I've not listened to your recording on it yet. But yeah, we starting in September, we'll really be hitting the ground running with the Superhero Ethics podcast, the Star Wars Universe podcast, which is Star Wars Generations, and a new parenting podcast coming with myself, Pete Wright, and Mandy Kaplan.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. One day it will release, and we love it.
And then there's a Marvel Movie Minute where Pete is trying really hard to get me to like Thor 2.
But we're it's an able fight. We're showing up every week. And
Lost in the Dark World.
This is a good show to have all of us here talk, us Marvel people, because we have movies yet accounted for in the MCU. And all we're doing, me and Matthew, we're the ones who stepped up to keep this show going because you turds decided not to. You couldn't stand Thor.
Hey.
We did Thor, so you wouldn't have to. You're welcome. That's all I'm saying.
We're still recovering from our extremis.
Yes, you are.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And
we suck.
Let's see, Rob. So Rob is on hiatus himself while we are not recording Marvel Movie Minute.
I am working on a video series for LinkedIn called Workplace Treasures. That, if for those of you who don't know, my workplace is sort of like a pop culture Cracker Barrel, or at least old Cracker Barrel. And I am doing a tour of the stories of everything Kyle knows.
Actually, honestly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm working on I'm deep in production on
Excellent. All right.
More to come soon.
That sounds really great. And Kyle, what do you want to? You've got so many things. What are you going to talk about?
I do have so many things, but before I sort of get to my plugs, I wanted to give some shout outs to people who, if they watch this and would like to do some comics, a couple of small recommendations. There was a Thing series written by Dan Slott. That was just a solo, the Thing just hanging out with his friends and playing poker with Captain America and stuff too. It's just a fun, great series. Got canceled way too soon. Highly recommend that. And if you want to just jump into Fantastic Four, I highly recommend Mark Waid and and Ringo. I can't. Ringo. They did an incredible run, and we lost Ringo way too soon. He died young, but his artwork is incredible. He does some of the most amazing Fantastic Four art you've seen, and so that is a great jumping on point because it was designed for people who sort of don't kind of know the characters a little bit, but it gets right into it, and at one point they meet God. I mean, it's incredible. It's so much fun, and it's such going through the crazy world. And also Ryan North just did a recent run on it too. I didn't love it as much as a lot of people did, but I love Ryan North, so I highly recommend checking those out if you want to just find a jumping on point, because Fantastic Four obviously has a huge publishing history. And then for me, I would say the one I would talk about was the one I do with Pete. We have a show called Craft and Chaos, where we talk about how we can, as artists, how we stay inspired when it feels like the world is on fire. We do that with two other artists, Misty and Ryan Dalton, and Misty Stinnett and Ryan Dalton. I got to get their full names in there, or else they'll come at me in our thread. And then we're having a lot of fun and talking about things like writer's block and imposter syndrome, and also getting really silly. So it's a good time. It's sort of like a campfire hangout, getting together just with other artists just to commiserate as we're all trying to make something in a world that does not want to see or hear what we make.
Love it. Great plug. And I will say all of the shows that I do with you people, I plug those, and Headstone, my new show about legacy and the things we leave behind, is out and available, and I would love it if you would check it out. It's just me. I don't have anybody helping me or doing anything with it. It's just me asking questions of people, and I'm really enjoying it. I hope they are too, the people. Kyle's on it. He's coming up in
that's true.
Future
if
episode.
you ever wanted to hear me cry on a podcast, check out Headstone.
Okay, so that's
Spoiler
something
alert.
to look forward to. And thank you, everybody, for your time and attention listening to this show. Whether you agreed, disagreed, or just came here to shout at your phones, we appreciate you. If you had fun, don't forget to join the conversation on the Discord at truestory.fm/Discord. And if you really love what we do, become a supporting member at truestory.fm/join for the perks. And that's it for all of us. Matthew Fox, Rob Kubasko, Kyle Olson, I'm Pete Wright. Meeting adjourned.